Morning to the people of St. Lucia. The United Workers' Party demands the immediate and absolute suspension of the 2.5 health and security levy. This is in response to the rising cost of living on a number of consumers. It is also in response to confusion and frustration and mounting challenges within the business community, in addition to a very increasing global economic and volatile political situation gripping the world at this time. It is no doubt that even before the implementation of this tax, St. Lucians were gripping or being gripped by a global inflation situation which saw tremendous increases in the price of ordinary consumables such as bread and bus fares and electricity prices and LPG cooking gas and a whole range of items. In the supermarkets we saw food increases, we saw increases to gas and diesel when we visit gas stations to purchase various items. And this has caused a significant strain on the already challenged budgets of many families who have seen no real shift in their income upwards. That in itself has created a very difficult situation on the backs of ordinary consumers in St. Lucia. And so, in response to an already bad situation, the government came up with a health and security levy. Even before the tax was implemented, our political leader has had reasons to caution the government. He wrote to the government indicating that this would further burden consumers, that this would further create strain and instill even increased economic hardship. The government did not listen. We see organizations like the Chamber came out and to say, look, this tax is a bad idea. Implementing it right now is going to be very difficult on a host of businesses. So having to deal with the inflation problem and now a 2.5% tax has made living in St. Lucia more difficult, has made affording basic commodities such as cheese and tuna fish and all the items that people use on an everyday basis, they have caused it to be out of the reach of the ordinary citizens of this country. And so we're calling, therefore, for the immediate suspension and absolute removal of this tax for the time being. The government has gone through great pains to say to us that they have had a very exhaustive exemption list in Schedule 3 of the legislation, the Health and Security Levy. And in Schedule 3, there's a whole list of items which they said are covered. However, notices from KFC, a food supplier, has made it very starkly that even though the government has sought to make these goods exempt from the levy, that there is still a very crushing blow on the price of these commodities, food. We saw the letter from KFC. But what the letter from KFC has clearly shown is that the government does not understand the impact that this tax is going to have on your everyday life. And so if we take, for example, the cost of business, which has gone up. So if we look at Massey stores, we would see that in the case of Massey stores, when they bring in a container, they have got to pay not just the CIF price on those items that attract the levy, but outside of those items, they've got to pay the brokerage fees. They've got to pay 2.5 on the trucking fees. They've got to pay 2.5 on their security costs. They've got to pay 2.5 on their advertising costs. They've got to pay 2.5 on their rent. They've got to pay 2.5 on their accounting when accounting firms come to audit their books. And so, what do you think is going to happen to items such as tuna fish, rice, flour, sugar, and all those commodities sold by Massey? All those commodities that you and I rely on to live, to get by. Groceries will go up, Mr. Prime Minister. And so for this reason, the United Workers' Party is calling on the government to absolutely and immediately suspend the 2.5% levy, because this is dealing a crushing blow on the ability of many families to survive. Let me turn my attention a little bit to businesses. The business community is also grappling with the repercussions of this policy. They have made it clear through the chamber that this tax is a severely bad idea. The chamber begged the government to suspend this tax to January 2024. The government, unfortunately, did not listen. Businesses indicated that, one, it was very difficult for them to, in such a short space of time, institute the arrangements to administer this tax, to ensure that they were in a good position to ensure that they adjust their computers, to adjust their systems, so that they can start to collect this tax on behalf of the government as the law mandates. Today, many businesses are exposed to the real and present danger that their businesses could run afoul of the law, and as a result, bringing about significant penalties to them if they, for example, unwittingly break the law because of their inability, because of the lack of training, because of the very urgent nature by which they need to implement this tax. In addition to this confusion, in addition to this very untenable and unfair situation, what we are also seeing is that this tax is going to impede the growth and expansion of business. If you're going to carry up the cost, people need to make investments. People need to make sure that they pay this tax upfront. The cash flow of many businesses are going to be affected. Many businesses have no avenue by which to implement this tax on the backs of the consumers. They have no avenue to get rebates. As bad as the value-added tax VAT is, it is far better for businesses. And a lot of businesses have actually said to government, why didn't you just increase the 2.5% value-added tax on consumers? It is my strong suspicion that the Philip J Pierre administration, instead, they did what they do best. They took the political option. They reasoned politically. They set a policy based on politics rather than your interest, you the people of St. Lucia. And so therefore, we have found ourselves in a very difficult situation. Our businesses have found themselves in a very precarious situation. So not only do we have businesses that are confused and frustrated, but we also have businesses that will struggle to help to reduce the unemployment rate. The private sector is the engine of growth in this country. And when you are going to encumber the private sector, as the government has with this tax, it tells me that the government's economic plan is wrong. Mr. Prime Minister, we're calling on you, we're demanding that you suspend immediately and absolutely the 2.5% levy. The other reason why we're calling today for this levy to be suspended is that of the global economic situation and the political volatility that we see that exists in today's global environment. Not only do we have the increasing volatility and uncertainty caused by the ongoing Russian-Ukraine war, but we continue to see increased instability in the Middle East, which is no doubt going to impact the production of oil. Already we see that markets are responding to what has happened in Israel and Palestine, and we see that the prices of oil are starting to go up, oil prices per barrel. This is going to increase energy costs. This is going to increase the cost of doing business. This is going to increase the cost of all those products that we manufacture, that we use in our supermarkets on a daily basis, that are coming in through our ports. And the 2.5% levy is only going to compound an already bad situation. We call on the government to immediately and absolutely suspend the 2.5% levy, given what is taking place in the world economically and politically. The government has no reason to do that, given that tax revenue in this financial year showed that the government has picked up an additional $81 million in tax revenue. Tax revenue has rebounded from the amazing policies that we have set out to get this economy rebounded from COVID. And so if the government was trying to raise $30 million, the last option should have been to impose a tax like this on the backs of you, ordinary consumers, on the backs of you, small businesses, on the backs of medium and large businesses, the people whom we depend on to generate jobs and create opportunity within this country. And so therefore, this tax needs to be suspended immediately and absolutely, so that we can free up our businesses, so that we can ease the burden that mothers, especially single mothers, vulnerable citizens, are feeling in this country today because of this very burdensome situation placed on its back by the Philip J Pierre administration. The list of items which this will attract this tax is extremely exhaustive. We see things like human hair. So if you go, you buy braids, you buy weave or a wig, the government will tax you 2.5%. You buy charcoal from the supermarket, the government will tax you 2.5%. You do a death announcement, for example. You take an advertising at DBS or any of the stations, and on the Schedule 2 of the Act, advertising is also included. And so therefore, if you're doing a fundraiser for medical purposes, that fundraising ad attracts at 2.5%. If you have a church crusade and you take an ad with any of the TV stations, they have got to collect an additional 2.5% from the government. Medical equipment in Schedule 1 of services. Now this is really uncaring, ill thought out, that you are going to tax medical equipment. This tax is going to have a debilitating impact on the healthcare situation of this country. The cost of healthcare will no doubt go up on the backs of ordinary citizens. It says here in Schedule 1 of the Act that optical, photographic, cinematograph, measuring, checking, precision medical or surgical instruments and apparatus, parts and accessories thereof will attract this 2.5%, number 90 of Schedule 1. Now, if private clinics are going to have to pay 2.5 in importing various equipment for CT scans, MRI scans, and other tests that you need to do, it means they pay 2.5%. They pay the broker 2.5%. The rent of these doctors' clinics will also go up. When the doctor's clinic go and they do their accounting, they have to pay another 2.5%. So all around what we see is that in very important industries, that 2.5% is added on, and there's a domino effect that's going to go straight to you, the end consumer, you, the people of St. Lucia, will have to pay the brunt of this cost because you have no one to pass it on to. And so the Philip J Pierre administration has made a fundamental error. This is a fatal mistake which impacts your life in such a tremendous way. When we look at, they even charging a walking stick, a man who's disabled or an elderly man who needs a walking stick for mobility. If his family member sends him a walking stick from overseas, he has to pay that 2.5%. This is unconscionable. I don't think that the government has thought this through properly, because there are too many things that are being impacted here by this 2.5%. And it's not just 2.5% once. All of these items are going to attract various transactions. If you're buying a car, those individuals, you want to buy a little second-hand car because you can't afford a brand new car. That car will attract 2.5 at the ports. You pay the broker 2.5. You buy accessories for the car, it's 2.5%. The bill of sale from the lawyer's office, 2.5%. So we see that on a range of things that you need to live day to day, even transportation, if you try to have private transportation, that too will attract the 2.5%. You go to the cinema, they tax you 2.5%. This is just a bad idea, and we demand the absolute and immediate suspension of this tax. Failing to listen, the United Workers' Party will continue to march. We will continue to advocate. We will continue to apply the pressure and advocate on behalf of you, the people of St. Lucia, until the government listens, until they release you from the shackles of this 2.5% levy, which is having untold damage on you, the people of St. Lucia, that have seen no real increases in your salaries. While this is happening, this is unnecessary, and the United Workers' Party cannot but demand strongly that the government remove this unfortunate burden on your backs. I thank you.